Everyday me, everyday God. Hi, I'm Vanessa, and I should say everyday spiritual director, everyday God. I am a spiritual director, although I don't always love that title because it sounds like being an expert or a guru or something like that, which I'm definitely not. If spiritual directors direct anything, it's helping others and making space for others to direct or redirect their attention back to God in their everyday lives. One of my favorite definitions or descriptions of spiritual direction is dusting for the fingerprints of God. I don't actually own one of those feathery duster things, and to be honest, I don't dust that often, but I still love that metaphor of looking for clues or traces or signs of God's presence throughout the day, especially in places that I wouldn't think to look, places right under my nose. It did occur to me this morning thinking about this that if I don't love the title spiritual director, a better one, although it's a little bit cheesy, might be spiritual detective, kind of bringing back that idea of looking for, dusting for the fingerprints of God in the day. So a few ways I've been thinking about this lately is I've been trying to interpret some of the everyday experiences of being human as clues to something else. So I've been trying to interpret jealousies as clues and cravings as clues, attraction as a clue, and anxiety even as a clue. So I thought I would just share a few examples. The idea of thinking of a jealousy as a clue came up when a few months ago, a friend of a friend who is a really wonderful poet, I found out that her book of poetry was coming out in fall, her first book of poetry. And as I read her poems and just loved them so much, they're the kind of poems that I understand, which is my favorite kind of poetry. I just felt jealous. I felt like, wow, can't believe she gets to be doing this. Or wow, look how far apart we are. And it occurred to me that maybe my jealousy wasn't a sign of how far apart we are, but maybe a sign actually of how similar we might be. It might be a sign of her using her time or living in her calling in a way that is very appealing to me, or might be similar to my own calling. So when I looked at that jealousy from that different angle, it actually turned out to be an invitation from God to talk about, to think about, to pray about. What is it that I want and that I'm drawn to? What are my gifts? And is this jealousy a clue about something that I want to do or that God has made me to do? And what would that look like? Another really simple example is lately I've felt jealous of all of my friends who grow their own lettuce. I have 3 friends with beautiful patches of lettuce. Just yesterday, I'm cat sitting for a neighbor and she was telling me to eat all the stuff in the backyard. They have a tiny backyard, yet they have like 20 heads of different varieties of lettuce. And I just felt so jealous. Like, no fair, you get to just go in your backyard and make a salad while the lettuce I bought from the grocery store is wilting in my crisper drawer as we speak. And right away I thought, maybe that feeling of envy is actually a sign that I want to grow and learn how to grow stuff. And that's been percolating for a while. So it was a great moment to interpret what initially felt like jealousy as a clue, as an invitation from God, as something that God might be using to get my attention. Let's see, other examples. I've been trying to interpret my cravings, just like my hunger cravings or, throughout the day cravings, as greetings instead of demands. It's so easy in the morning, my craving for caffeine, or in the afternoon, my craving for something sweet when I'm tired, or after dinner, my craving for something to just symbolize winding down. It's so easy to hear those as demands, something to obey. And I've been trying to treat them as greetings, as a way of saying, hello, would you like to have a conversation? As a way of getting my attention. And I guess I see them initially as a way for my body to get my attention, but ultimately I see it as an opportunity for God to get my attention too, instead of kind of unconsciously just responding to stuff throughout the day. Those cravings are a moment. They're like a little bell that goes off or a little alarm clock, and they say, hey, do you want to talk about what you think you need or what you think you want? I guess the last example I'll share is the ways I'm trying to turn my anxieties into clues about what I want and need and how to pray. Just yesterday, I spoke with my sister on the phone who lives in California, and she has some signs, some symptoms of COVID, so took a test, and so does one of her sons. And I found myself worrying about them. And last night, also for the first night since March, my husband and son were away. So I was sleeping in the king bed all alone. And I found myself having a hard time going to sleep, thinking about my sister, her son, and my husband and my son. And I tried to treat that anxiety, that worry, as a clue. And it helped me know how to pray in that moment instead of praying for their well-being or for my own anxiety, which would have been valid prayers. It just helped me to realize that my anxiety was actually just a confession of my love for them and a confession of hope, a hope for their well-being, a hope for people's bodies to be okay, a hope for reunion with people that aren't here right now. And so that's what I did last night. I just confessed to God how much I love them. And that felt like all I needed to say and do with that anxiety. So I offer those examples of treating things that come up in everyday life, not as demands or as bad things, but as clues potentially of God's action in life or God's way of getting our attention, traces of God. So I bless you with that today. May you be able to dust a little bit for the fingerprints of God in the stuff that comes up, in your jealousies, in your anxieties, in your attraction, in your cravings.